Hello there. We're back to the chapter Aftermath in Crisis of Conscience. The tape episode is over, and now life after Bethel. Some weeks after my return to Alabama, the Society had sent me a check for $10,000 as a gift to aid in reestablishing in the South. I had made no request for money, and the action taken was both unexpected and appreciated. It took a loan of another $5,000 to obtain a mobile home, and Peter Gregerson allowed us to park this on his property. I was grateful to be able, as well as economically obliged, to do strenuous physical labor for Peter in yard work. Each day was spent mowing lawns, cutting weeds, trimming hedges, being stung by wasps and yellow jackets, bitten innumerable times by fire ants, sweating through one period when for 30 consecutive days the temperature passed 100 degrees Fahrenheit. I cannot recall any other time in my life when I experienced the constant physical pain that I did during those months. Yet I was glad for it, as it served to offset the emotional hurt I felt. The greatest help for both my wife and myself was, however, our daily reading of the Scriptures. Each morning we read 4 of the Psalms, doing this consecutively until completing them. Though read many times before, they seemed almost new to us now. We could relate to them so much more. For if any one part of the Bible makes clear the very personal relationship that can and should exist between God's servants and Himself, the Psalms seem to do this outstandingly so. The emotional upset, the sighing, the feeling of helplessness and despair that the writers so often expressed, their ultimate acknowledgement in each case that their full and final hope was and must be not in men, but in Jehovah God as their rock and high place of protection, struck a very responsive chord in both of us. My determination on leaving the international headquarters had been not to precipitate problems. I did not go looking for trouble. The trouble came looking for me. For a number of months, we enjoyed a pleasant relationship with the members of the East Gadsden congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses, sharing in their meetings and their field activity. A few months after my arrival, the local body of elders wrote to Brooklyn, recommending my appointment as an elder in the congregation. The brief reply that came back said succinctly that the Society did not think it advisable for the elders to recommend me as such or as a ministerial servant. The only reason given was that the notice of my resignation, published in the same Our Kingdom service as the information about the disfellowshipping of several staff members, was still recent. The presiding overseer of the congregation seemed upset by the spirit of the letter, but I recommended he simply forget about it. With this letter, plus the information given out to elders as a result of the September 1, 1980 Society letter, stating that mere belief that differed from the published teachings of the Society was grounds for disfellowshipping, the atmosphere gradually began to change. The Watchtower magazine began publishing articles clearly designed not to calm matters, but to focus discussion on the supposed apostasy taking place. From then till now, by word and by printed page, a concerted campaign has apparently been underway to justify the extreme treatment meted out to those brothers in Brooklyn who were so swiftly expelled. Rather than a lessening of dogmatism, the claims of divine authority and the accompanying calls for unquestioning loyalty became more strident. Issue after issue of the Watchtower magazine focused on points that had been questioned, insisted on their rightness, and in general produced a definite entrenchment of position rather than a moderating thereof. The argumentation used to achieve this seemed to reach new lows of misrepresentation of any contrary views. An atmosphere of both suspicion and fear developed. Elders who were by nature moderate felt hesitant about calling for moderation, lest this be viewed as evidence of disloyalty. Those who were inclined toward tough action found favorable opportunities to express their hardline attitude. It recalled the McCarthy period in the United States, when anyone who spoke on behalf of civil rights and freedom and expressed disapproval of ruthless methods of crushing unpopular ideologies was in real danger of being classed as a communist sympathizer, a fellow traveler of radical elements. Under these circumstances, meeting attendance for me became more and more depressing, as it meant hearing God's word misused, made to say things it did not say, as well as hearing the constant self-authentication and self-commendation of the organization. It made one wish that there was at least the freedom of expression found in the first century synagogues that granted persons such as the apostles opportunity to speak out in favor of truth. Though even there, this inevitably led to a hardening of attitude that eventually would close the doors of the synagogue for them. But as I remarked to Peter Gregerson, I considered myself simply a guest at the Kingdom Hall. It was their hall, their meetings, their programs, and I had no desire to put a damper on their carrying them out. So I limited my comments to the reading of relevant scriptures, simply emphasizing whatever portion was applicable. It was a rare meeting that someone, often an older member, did not come up afterward and make some expression of appreciation. The crusade atmosphere developing, however, gave me reason to believe it was just a matter of time until some further action would be taken toward me. And so it happened. The next section is under Ray's subheading, The Crime and the Sentence.